Everything about your brand should be delivering the idea of being authentic, real people, real technicians, not made up fake people. And I think it's interesting because I actually think the pendulum is already swinging the other way, where people are truly craving authenticity.
Please welcome America's service sales coach, Joe Crisara.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast, the show that helps home service professionals master high-value sales, build stronger client relationships, and grow their business like never before. Join industry experts as they share real strategies that drive results. If you're ready to level up your service game, you're in the right place. Let's get started.
It's the Service MVP Podcast.
Welcome to the Service MVP Podcast. My name is Joe Crisara, America's service sales coach, and I have the honor of having with me a great friend, Mr. Dan Antonelli from KickCharge Services, who is a branding expert, and I think everybody who knows you and loves you is like I do. I can't think. I'm not sure if you have too many enemies, maybe just the other branding companies. But Dan, welcome to the show. I appreciate you being here.
Thanks, Joe. I'm thinking to myself, you and I feel like we're OGs in this industry at this point. We've both been in it seemingly a long time. I got 31 years into it. You've got to have probably just as many, right? I mean, how many years you got in it?
Well, if it comes to the whole thing, 48
Yeah,
years, but I would say 20, let's say good 25 years with the
yeah,
services to contractors, about
yeah.
25 years now. We
We're
have,
still standing, so that's
we
that's
are, we're
pretty
still doing
amazing,
it.
right?
When we do what we love, it's easy. It's not, that was a secret. When we chose something we love to do, it was like getting paid to do what you love. And that's something that makes it attractive. And don't tell anybody, Dan, but I would probably do this for free if I didn't need to make it paid. So, but I'll keep it a secret if you do. How's that sound?
Yeah.
But I probably would do it anyway because I just love doing it so much, and so do you. I know you do too. I know that you can't stay off. Every time you see somebody say, "Hey, what do you think of this logo?" and you're like, "Oh boy, I can't. You can't wait. You can't wait to dive into it and think like, hey, let's just talk." So anyway,
It's
good, Dan.
yeah.
So Dan, let's just talk about that. I think we now have. I've talked about it before. The track record between the one-two punch of, like, say, creating a brand and an image that sells the company before the service tech or salesperson or installer gets to the home. And then, of course, the brand that creates the aspiration of the individual service tech and the confidence and the elevated, like, I better show up today with my A game because the brand is given just pulling out of that truck with that branded uniform and the wall wrap I just saw in the front in the office. It just kind of makes everybody feel like, yeah, this is a unique experience that, and it creates. I think it does greatly affect sales, but I think it also affects retention of employees and attraction of employees too. So Dan, let's go through a little bit. Let's see, what have you experienced in terms. I know you always like to talk about seeing companies who you started with the branding and then it turned into something special. And how have you seen the connection between sales and branding? And let's talk about that today.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when you think about brand and what brands are really doing is brands are trying to create the trust before the technician arrives at the home. And if I can create that trust, it's going to make that sales process that much easier. So it's not only just trust, it's the perception of what the deliverable will be. So if you create a brand that makes Mrs. Jones, because she's the person most likely that the technician is going to be talking to, if you create a brand that, first of all, makes her feel safe with who's coming to her home, makes her feel that you will perform an amazing service, you will be honest, you will be trustworthy, and that she can count on you in the future if something goes wrong with that investment that you're asking her to make in your services or the product that you may be selling to her to solve a problem that she has. So that's not complicated, right? But people I think overcomplicate it sometimes. But each impression that is being formed are the impression that I want to control. I want to create something that makes people feel something about that experience. And those are all the touch points along the journey. So it's not just the truck, it's not just the uniform that she sees when you show up, it's the website. What do we say on the website that is compelling, that is different, that is unique, that is talks about that story of why she should choose your company over someone else's? And I think that the data and the metrics, when you look at booking rates and close rates and average tickets, the data is very clear about the results that a more polished brand will get versus a weaker brand. And certainly when I updated my book. I know you're a big fan of the first edition of the book, Branded Not Blanded, and I just updated it. And why I updated it was I wanted to include so much more data
Mm.
about those metrics, about those KPIs that, we collected for companies before and after rebranding, so we could see what the impact truly was. And I think that, to me, it's like pouring gasoline on the fire when you've got that amazing brand and then you couple it with some of the things that you teach and that you're able to train people on. And I'm sure, Joe, like, listen, you've worked with people that have weak brands, and I'm sure you were able to move the needle for them as well. But I know you've also worked with several brands that we've created that you've had the opportunity to work with, and that confidence that those techs have, it's different. Like you can almost feel the confidence being different as far as how they show up to a home. I mean, like talk to me about that, because I always love your feedback on that, because you're in the front lines, you see that all the time, and you could really speak probably to that piece of it better than I can.
I want everybody to come to the next Total Immersion, the life-changing event where you increase your sales and your personal growth. What should we do?
Yeah, you know what? It is unique, and I always do put in there whenever I go to a place or whenever I do teach people, or even our coaches now, because we have over 10 coaches that work on all the different time zones, and one thing I've taught them is to say, hey, it's not just the person, it's a team you're working with, and the team has a certain aspiration, and the leader of the team put a lot of money into creating a vision. And I think that's what branding is. It's a vision of the way we are attempting to serve our community, a feeling, an emotion, uh, a sentence or two that gives us a differentiating aspect of things. That's the look is different, the words are different. And I take companies like we just talked about Lickety Split, one of the companies we work with, and I'm like, yeah, it means do it now. So it's like, hey, we have to live up to the name here. I always tell people when Dan Antonelli creates a brand, my job is to turn that brand into words that support the brand. Like it fits. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whatever it is, if a company's called, I remember I worked with Quality Heating and Air Conditioning in Oklahoma. Same thing. I said, hey, the name of the company has a lot to live up to. So let's speak as if we're talking through the brand is talking through us. And I think that does create an innate sense of confidence. But actually, so that's where I'm different. I don't just teach the individual person. I teach the person that you've got the whole support of the team, the brand, the people who are with you. It's all coming through you. And so when you talk to a customer, you're going to be different than you were if you were just on your own somewhere. If you just had your own
Right.
blue jeans and flannel shirt on,
Yeah.
you're not going to be the same person. So basically, I think the one thing I think both you and I together, thing I'm most proud of, that combination of the two of us, is that it really puts a positive impact on the life of those people, and they become somebody who speaks with a much more confidence and clarity, because that's what I teach. I teach how do you to get that brand and what the brand is trying to say. And I put that into words that you use with the client that says, this is what this company's about to make the brand come to life when you're inside the home. Does that make sense, Dan?
No, 100%. And it's funny too, because we're talking about the techs that are in the home, but I want to mention something else too that I think is really important that people, I think, underestimate when it comes to branding is what effect does the brand have on the mindset of the owner? what does it actually do to them? And
Mhm.
how does it make them a better leader? How does it make them have such a, renewed enthusiasm for what they're building and how proud they are when they put that shirt on and they put that hat on with the new brand. And it's very ironic and interesting in the sense that no one comes to us and says, hey, we want to rebrand because I need to reset my mindset. I need to get in a better state of mind. I need to feel good about this company moving forward. They never start that conversation like that. It's always driven from a marketing perspective, a marketing need, which
Mhm.
of course is the fundamental reasons why we do this.
Mhm.
But the benefits that happen from a perspective of culture and what it does to the mindset of the owner and then trickles down exactly to the people we're talking about, the technicians, and what happens to them when they get in this brand new truck that's wrapped and looks amazing and represents how well they perform this service. So it's kind of funny that I think, I sort of feel like sometimes I'm a brand psychologist, right? Because, you're really kind of thinking about the psychology of the brand, not only just from the consumer's perspective, but from the owner's perspective, and then of course the technician's perspective as well.
I think I've witnessed that too, which is that owners who would normally be more reactive become more responsive rather than reactive. And I think the reason is again when when you got the truck right outside or the wall wrap or you're wearing the shirt or the hat or you just see people in your office and everything is adorned with the branding and elements, not always up front the whole brand, but just even elements of it. I think it does like, yeah, I gotta just and I always tell people who are involved with your branding and our training that I admire so much the personal growth of those people. And that's why I think that the leadership of the team does have an amazing amount of personal growth. It becomes less reactive and more proactive and responsive. I've noticed that, and that's one thing I think that's one of the key things of leadership. I really believe is that if you're because I remember before I had branding, I was back when somebody gave me advice to say, Joe, you're a plumber and air conditioning guy, but you run a business. He goes, you should put a tie on, wear a tie and a shirt when you go to work every
Mhm.
day, and it did change my behavior. Just that alone, so just having
Yeah,
a tie and a shirt on, I wore a short
absolutely.
sleeve shirt with a tie and normal khaki pants rather than just a uniform a technician would wear. It did change my behavior and changed my outlook on my direction because I'm like, yeah, I'm dressed like a leader. It's part of like looking at yourself and just looking down and saying, yeah, I can't act like a maniac anymore. I gotta act like a normal person now. A person who's like, I gotta. It gives me something to aspire to live up to. Does that make sense, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like that.
Absolutely.
So Dan, let's talk about the book though. I want to talk about the new version. So you have some of that more of the case studies and stuff in there. What have you tell us some of the elements to the branded, not blinded book, which I always have recommended, and I've actually bought it on Amazon and sent it to a lot of my clients who I think need this. I mean, pretty much
Yeah.
everybody who doesn't use you, I'm like, yeah, it just is a free gift. You might want to call the person in the book. Because it's going to make it easier for me, honestly. Because your service makes it easier for me. I think my service makes it easier for you. I think it's a complementary service that we both have. But I think I give it. So, tell me some of the changes that are some of the things that have been added or enhanced in the book that is going to even help more.
Yeah. So I added about 65 new pages of content to it. And I think when I wrote the first edition, I don't want to say it was theory based, but I really spent the 3 years after it was published collecting data because I wanted to sort of prove more of the theory behind what I spoke about. And obviously I had experienced the results, but I said let's benchmark some case studies here and truly show not only just revenue increases, because revenue increases obviously can be attributed to a number of different things post rebrand. There may be sales training, like they hired Joe. Well, yeah, that's going to affect average tickets, right? That's definitely going to affect average tickets.
Mm-hmm.
But I also wanted to see the results on digital marketing, right? So what was happening with brands that had a KickCharge brand versus brands that did not use a KickCharge brand. And so we have some data that was collected comparing 25 companies with a KickCharge brand and 25 companies without a KickCharge brand. And what did we see? Well, we saw that, one example is we saw that on average, a KickCharge brand was being searched by its name 10 times more frequently than a non-KickCharge brand. And it was
That's
coming
interesting.
out, so it was about 550 branded keyword searches per month for a KickCharge brand versus 50 for a non-KickCharge brand. And then, well, what happened when they came to the website afterwards? What conversion did we experience on that? And the KickCharge brands were converting at 12% and the non-KickCharge were converting at 6%. So we had 10 times the number of inbound leads to the website and searches for the company name. And then we had twice as many conversions that happened when they came into. So that by itself was translating into an average of 50 more leads a month just by having a KickCharge brand, right? So I compiled so much of that type of data, looking at booking rates, looking at conversion rates, looking at average tickets, and put all this data together to highlight just sort of the results that we were seeing
Yeah, yeah.
across.
Actually, I was talking about that other company we just mentioned that he told me that this year in March and in April, in March and February, the branded search, the searching for his exact brand was up 10 times over the last year because he has been, pushing the brand. He was on a TV commercials and stuff like that now, and it's like everybody's just now we're getting. He said that branded search is gold. He said that's the gold standard where they're not looking for something else, looking for you specifically. I think that's the
Exactly.
thing. So it doesn't just do a thing where you're noticed. Element one is like, oh, I could pick that out of the crowd, but element two is like the crowd's gone away. You're just looking for you.
Right.
We're looking for you, right? That's the part that's the part that every brand I think really wants is like, hey, forget about everybody else. Just we're here. We're the ones you should be calling, type of thing. Make sense, Dan?
Yeah, absolutely. And the other part that I think we hammered a little bit harder in the second edition is the notion of visibility within the community and how do we become what we call 5 Mile famous? How do we have a brand that everyone within 5 miles of our office knows the name of us when they think about heating and air conditioning? Because what would that mean if everyone within 5 miles of your office knew you existed? The reality is actually only 84% of the people searching for a home service contractor know the name of a home service contractor to call,
That's right. Yeah.
right? So that's insane, right? But what would happen if everyone within 5 miles knew you existed and simply went on Google and typed in your name when they needed your service? Well, what would that do to your marketing spend? What would that do to your acquisition cost?
Hmm.
And so how do we become visible in the community? I mean, obviously, the brand and the truck wraps are a significant component to that, making sure that the brand is visible, that it's memorable, that it connects with them on a deeper level. But then doing the things that aren't as sexy as maybe writing a check to Google, which sounds bizarre. Like there's nothing sexy about writing a check to Google, but
Hmm.
or giving them your credit card. But people think that that's easy. It's very easy just to up your budget in Google and think you're going to get all these leads. It's much harder to say we're going to send two guys out to a home show on a Friday night and a Saturday afternoon and have them work the booth. We're going to go attend the 4th of July parade, and we're going to pull a trailer, and we're going to have our wrap truck in front, and we're going to be throwing out candy to everyone along the street. We're going to go to the Halloween parade and do the same thing. And we're going to be visible. We're going to sponsor some soccer teams. We're going to sponsor some little leagues. And I think when people, especially now with how competitive it is, especially in digital marketing and how much the cost per leads have been driven up through private equity, what can we be doing to get 5 Mile famous and doing some of those grassroots efforts that may not feel sexy, but especially if you have a great brand that people will recall and remember. And I think people go to these events and they make the mistake and they say, well, we only got 2 leads, or we didn't get any leads. I'm like, it's not point of purchase. It's not like we're expecting to get a million leads. Of course, we want to try to get as many as we can, free inspections, whatever we're going to do to try to get our foot in the door. But sometimes the ROI in that you don't realize until 2 weeks later, 4 weeks later, 3 months later. But imagine if you live in their mind and they recall it later on, how much cheaper your marketing is going to be. And again, that's really the foundation of everything that I talk about in the book is build that brand that people remember, that they can recall later on. And maybe you won't need to spend nearly as much money on marketing. And that's the irony when people say, branding is so expensive. And I would say, well, how much is not branding costing you? What is it costing you?
I,
You know,
I
look at your
agree with that.
acquisition costs, So it's one of those things where it's easy to sort of look at the sum total of what the investment looks like and say, oh my God, that's crazy. But yet the fees you pay out to Google is like a death by 1,000 cuts. Like every single month, you're just getting cut, you're getting cut, you're getting cut.
And
And
let's not forget just the acquisition of new clients, but the acquisition of new employees too. I mean, honestly,
100%.
I think when I work with the companies that have worked with you and have been branded by you, it's like they have a recruiting system almost every time where they can attract the best talent to their company too because of that veneer or that feeling. And I do want to talk about a little bit about that too, that feeling and veneer. I always say this whenever I see the stuff that you do at branding, it just gives me like this sort of like I've seen this before, like something I've seen before, but it's even a brand new thing. I'm like, yeah, that looks like somebody I know or somebody, almost like somebody I met before, right? So
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
it gives me a feeling of warmth and like, yeah, that's the kind of people, that's the kind of person I'd like to do business with. So I'm not sure
Exactly.
what you describe that as, maybe the halo effect or something like that, you might say.
Yeah.
Is that
Uh,
more science or art when you do that with different brands? Is that more of just like the feel, or is it actually do you put certain colors and things? Tell us a little about the science
yeah.
behind how that halo effect is established.
It, it's a little bit of both, but the emotional connection that a brand can make with someone makes it far more likely that they will ever recall it. If there's no emotional connection, then it's just an impression that I can dismiss. I don't have to think about it at all. I've seen it, I've dismissed it because it's not interesting to me. It doesn't appeal to me. And it's not something that I'm likely to remember later on because maybe it feels like something I've seen 1,000 times before. I always tell the story of people going on Google and I say, go on Google and if you're in air conditioning, just type in air conditioning logo examples and click the images and then tell me if your logo is in there. Because if your logo is in there, why do you think anyone would remember your logo then if it looks the
Mm,
same as everyone else's? And I'll tell you
mm,
this quick story. Like we have this client called their company name is Maston's Plumbing, and they're in Oklahoma, and we had done the branding for them. And I have this video of a woman that came up to the owner. His name is Cale Forrester, and came up to the owner and starts gushing about his truck wrap and his branding. She's
mm,
like, I was behind your truck and the image just spoke to me. It made me think of a period of time where contractors were trusted and they did what they said they were going to do. And it just made me feel so good seeing that. And like I literally have it on camera. Like it's a great video.
mm,
And do you think that she's going on Google next time and typing in plumbing company near me? Or is she
mm.
going to type in Maston's? Because she's already like she literally followed him into a store to tell him that.
Yeah,
Like
that's interesting.
is your brand doing that? Is it having that effect of people? Or are they just looking at it like, all right, whatever. It's heating it.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it doesn't feel anything to me. And if it doesn't feel anything, it just means I need more impressions to try to make someone remember it. And
Hmm.
that's the other thing that I was researching a lot more about is like the average time it takes, the average number of impressions it takes for someone to remember your brand name. And I think the average is something in the high teens, like 18 or 19 impressions before someone might remember or know who you are. But
Hmm.
what if you could make that five?
Yeah, that's a
What do
good
you think
point.
that that would do to your marketing cost if it was five impressions and I know who you are instead of 20 or 18? Well, then maybe I would be spending 25% less on that acquisition cost because I don't need as many impressions in front of someone to get them to remember or care anything at all about my brand. So it's just kind of interesting that it's less about how cool the truck wrap is. It's more about how does that truck wrap make someone feel? How does it live in their mind? What does it make them think about your company? And more importantly, does it evoke an expectation of a positive experience if I would hire you? And I think that that's the part, sadly, that so many just miss. They don't have that expectation and that promise being delivered via the brand, and thus they have to make up for it with just a higher marketing spend.
Yeah, the USP, as people call it, the unique selling position, which is solidified by this, which basically is one of the most slipperiest things, because when you start actually trying to do it just with words, um, good luck. It's like we could put all the words in the right order, and it's
Right.
still
Yeah,
just
yeah.
something's missing. It's like I don't know. I don't think my people are going to get this, and it does take the image, the colors, and all that stuff to make it work. And that's why it's so much magic when people do look at your stuff, and why everybody does smile when you see. You can't. I would say you can't say KickCharge without smiling. It's like it's like it makes you want to smile and makes you feel warm and good inside. Hey, let's move on to a different topic if you don't want. How about
Yeah.
with the advent of AI now, kind of getting
Mhm.
started out here? Let's talk a little bit about that and how that is affecting your industry and
Mhm.
what you do and how it affects people as well. Tell me a little bit about how do you see that impacting the trend in the future toward what you try to do for people?
Yeah, I mean, there's two things on that as far as impact for us and what we're doing to leverage it. From a digital marketing perspective, what it's allowing us to do is just be so much more efficient with our time and then allow us to focus more resources on account management. And
Okay.
the speed at which it can analyze data for us and how we're using it to analyze data has made us so much more effective. And so I love the technology that we're deploying in support of digital marketing because it's just making us provide a superior service than we were able to offer before. And I love that part of it. On the design side, like as it relates to branding and traditional graphic design, again, like I think we're not using it nearly as much there for a lot of reasons. Number one is just the authenticity factor or inauthenticity factor.
Hmm.
And so you're seeing so much art, so many ads that are very, very obviously designed in AI. And there's already a pretty strong backlash against it from consumers, especially younger consumers, which is interesting to me too, that the younger consumers are especially really the ones singing so much mistrust about what they call AI slop. And so I think there's a lot of caution that needs to be communicated to people that are just saying, oh, I can just upload my logo and a couple of graphics and it's going to spit out 30 different social media posts for me and 30 social media graphics, and they're all going to be so very clearly identified as being AI that you are now doing a disservice to your brand, because everything about your brand should be delivering the idea of being authentic, real people, real technicians, not made up fake people. And I think it's interesting because I actually think the pendulum is already swinging the other way, where people are truly craving authenticity. As it relates to logos, it's to me painfully obvious as well when I see a logo that's designed in AI. And
Hmm.
you still have a lot of challenges with that. It's not even a usable piece of art that you're
Yeah,
going
yeah.
to have. Someone else is going to have to recreate it and to make it a usable piece of art that's scalable, build a brand guide from it, do all those other things. But again, it always strikes me as ironic that if we're talking about a brand that should be the most authentic piece of your company, and you're having a machine develop it. And then I would say also just begs the question, if you're the one inputting all the directives into AI about how to build your brand, why would you think you're qualified to actually build your own brand? Like what
Mhm.
about your experience and your expertise makes you believe that that's a smart decision for your business or in your business's best interest? And maybe you don't have the funds to afford branding, and I'm not trying to knock people that can and they're doing the best they can. Like I understand that part of it, but certainly you also have technical challenges, you have copyright challenges. You may not even be able to own your own brand at a certain point if it was derived in AI. So there's some legal issues too that I think people just need to be cautious about. Sometimes for ideation, It's okay. I will say the one thing that's been frustrating for us, certainly over the last 3, 4 months, is you have concepts that we're developing that are taking in the creative expertise of 4 or 5 different brand designers with 150 years worth of experience. And then you're feeding that into chat and using your own bias and chat wants to, wants you to approve, wants you to, it wants to support your decision. So you feed in bias and then it gives you back the answer that you wanted to give.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
and so there's people that are placing so much trust in what AI is telling them about how they should be doing their brand. And I'm just thinking to myself, AI gets like 50% of his information from Reddit. Like, do you truly want to trust what that's telling you? Or do you want to trust
It
some experts that have
comes up wonky and everything. It's even
yeah,
like with the we do a thing with an again, I think it's the kind of thing like what can it do for you as a human to go fetch stuff or whatever and bring
right,
back
right.
it accurate.
Yeah.
But yet you do have to get it tuned in. Like we have this optionbuilder.ai, which is an AI program, but it has to have your flat rate prices that are accurate. You got to do that. Somebody's got to you want to use AI to help you figure out the price. Well, that's your prices. We have to have that, but then it takes that and it interprets it for a human. Like, what's the benefit a human's going to get from the task you're doing? So, doing that I think is okay. I think trying to say, hey, do everything, like just throw it at the wall. It's a spaghetti at the wall and hope it sticks. It's not going to be accurate. Number one, so you have to have it. The humans got to create the guardrails in a way. I believe in a way like what you're saying. I love what you're saying, which is that it frees up your staff to interact with humans more than it does with your head down on your computer. Your
Right.
head's up and you're able to talk and enjoy time with your client and get to know the brand more and then spend that. I think that's a great case for it. Or if you're a person who has a brand that has been professionally created, how can I apply this brand? What are some creative ways I can apply it? Or maybe give you some ideas that you can apply the
Mhm.
brand talking points or the brands. And actually, I actually do use AI for that. Before when I go out to one of your clients, I like, "Hey, here's the company. Put the website based on this website. What are some talking points? And based on what I have my own AI that's
Right, right.
in my boundaries. I'm like, here's this company's website. Looking at Dan Antonelli branded this. What can we do at Service MVP to combine the pure motives with what Dan has got here, and give us some things that I'm going to be successful. Like before we even go on a call with someone, they're like shocked, like, man, do we know each other? And it's like, how do you? I was like, no, I just did some little research, and they're like, man, you're like super intelligent. I'm like, oh, of course, they don't have a little help from my AI friend that helped me prep for that call before I went on with them, and I think it's just smart to kind of do that kind of thing. A little, what can you do, and what can you gain that you'd have to pour through a whole website to find the names of the owner or or what they believe in because they usually do put some stuff in the about us section that is difficult for most people to navigate. But I think that's a way that I think you can research your customers maybe and see. What can your brand do for this customer is a great way to kind of do research there. And I think that's a good way for people to use it, which is take what you have and see how it applies to whatever new future consumer that you might get in that part of it. And I love what you're saying too, which is to say, just give me more time with the humans so this stuff can take care of all the busy work. Like I can't
Yeah,
take spreadsheets.
exactly.
Spreadsheets used to give me
Mhm.
a headache, Dan. Now it's like, yeah, just take this shit and put it in a
Yeah,
spreadsheet. And
a
it's like,
hundred percent.
boom. And I'm like, oh my God, it would have taken me like a year to do that spreadsheet. So it's
Yeah,
like that. I love that part of it there. Dan, I think, I could talk to you all day as we sometimes do. But I think that was a good podcast starts on time and a great one ends on time. I think we're going to have to call this one to an end. Daniel, anything you want to say on the final go around here? And so, as you want to say to speak to people out there in the public about what's next for KickCharge? I know you're part of the network, a different network now. You've been grown into a bigger network, and now the waiting time is less. Tell us about
yeah.
usability of KickCharge and how that works for people.
Well, it was probably only a year and a half or 2 years ago that we were booked out 8 months, and that was our biggest pain point is we just could not keep up with demand. And so finding people at the level that we needed to represent KickCharge was our biggest challenge. And we've been able to pull together We're up to, I think, 9 full-time brand designers on staff right now, and that's all they do is
Mm,
branding. They don't do brochures. That's another whole team that does
mm-hmm.
traditional collateral. And so we have gotten our wait times down to, I think, about 6 weeks now at this point, which is great. And I
Nice.
love that we can help people faster. We don't do the work any faster. The same amount of time it takes to complete the project is still about the same. But we're able to actually even put more designers on each project as well. So you get, I think, a greater variety of concepts and options to pick
Mm-hmm.
from.
Mm-hmm.
And then the digital team for us has just grown substantially. And right now, I think we're managing the digital marketing for about 60 or 70 home service companies. So we have about
Mm,
30 people on staff that only do digital marketing. And
interesting.
that's been great to see too. So now when you have, a great brand, we can take that brand, we can produce all your marketing materials, and then we can do your website and your SEO, and we could do your um, email marketing and your social media and all those other channels. And again, no matter where that customer is on that journey, they're going to see the same type of image and the same type of visual. So it's been great to see, and super
And,
grateful for the trades and everything that they've been able to provide to my family, my team. Like we said earlier, 31 years doing this, and it's just bizarre to me to a certain extent that, like, I literally hand lettered my first truck 41 years ago, and I still get that same sense of pride when I see one of my trucks, drive
mm-hmm.
by
Mm-hmm.
that I know the team created. So I will say this too, and I always make the offer to people, and I know that the listeners of your show, they're all trying to get better, and I understand certainly there's sometimes where you're just not in a position where you can work with us. But if you have something you're working on, you want feedback on it, I'm not a hard sell guy. Joe, you know me, like, 10 years now at this point probably, and
Mm-hmm.
that's not how I operate. But if somebody wants to send me something, just, hey Dan, like, I heard you on Joe's podcast. Hey, what do you think about this? And I'll just give you feedback on it. Maybe there's a couple of things that you can tweak or improve, or next time when you get it printed, just change this and it'll make it, a lot better. Just hit me up. Like, not everyone can be a KickCharge client, and that's totally fine. But I wrote the book and I try to share as much as I can because I believe that every single home service owner deserves the best opportunity and the best chance of success. And if I could give back in that manner, then I'm really proud and happy to do that.
Well, thanks so much, Dan, for coming out here, and everybody who's listening. Thanks for watching or listening to this entire episode. And definitely, if you need help or you'd like help, go to KickCharge. What's the website address over there, Dan?
Just kickcharge.com, and I'm Dan at kickcharge.com.
Dan at Kick. You can email Dan or talk to him online. He's on Facebook all over the place, and if you put a logo up, he'll probably find it. He's like, I was noticing why everybody's like, as soon as they put up, hey, what do you think of my new logo I made myself? Everybody puts Dan Antonelli. They tag you immediately, so
Yeah.
you have a bunch of finders. I wish I had somebody who had, like, you need sales help. Yeah, Joe Crisara. I do a little of that, not as much as you get though. But Dan, thanks for being here again, and mostly thanks for your friendship and your support.
Yeah.
That's something that I will definitely treasure or for as long as I live. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you for listening and watching the Service MVP podcast. I want to give you a copy of my free book. Just click on the link below in the description, and one will be sent to you from me personally. Thank you so much for listening.